What are the 7 secret truths about the transition from undergrad to grad school? Stick around, let's talk about it today on this episode of Navigating Academia. What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is your buddy and personal academic mentor, Dr. J. Phoenix Singh. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to be able to talk about what I perceive to be the 7 secret truths about the transition from being an undergraduate to being a grad student. Let me tell you right now, this is one of my all-time favorite topics because I can tell you that I really don't think that I was prepared. Even at an R1 school where I went to undergrad in the United States, it was a situation where I thought that they would maybe better prepare me for kind of the mindset shift and the expectations of a leading grad school, but I just don't really feel like that was the case. So it's one of those reasons why for me it's really important to be able to make videos like this. Before we get started though, you guys know that I appreciate the love, so please do take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, colleagues, and students, and down here you can follow us on our social media accounts. So let's jump right in. Point number 1 is that grad school has significantly increased academic rigor. I can tell you that graduate school is often much more challenging than undergraduate studies. Actually, now that I think about it, over the last 20 years, I have never encountered a case where grad school was easier than undergrad. And if it is, to be honest with you, I'd be a little bit worried, okay? Because honestly, grad school usually requires a higher level of dedication and effort than undergrad. It doesn't just have to do with the nature of the program in terms of the requirements. So for example, doing things like what we call comps, which are comprehensive exams, and then also doing a dissertation or doing a master's thesis at the least, but also the level of independence that's being accepted or that is deemed acceptable by you as a student shifts dramatically. You know, when I was an undergrad, I have such a support system. You know, I went to a place called Tufts University. I had so many people who were in my corner, and it was kind of expected that I was the novice. And I guess that when I got to grad school, I also kind of expected, where people know I'm like a first year or second year, they must know that I'm still kind of the novice here. But that just wasn't the case in either of the 2 doctorates that I completed. Really, I was just dropped into the deep end, and the idea was you're gonna either learn to swim or you're going to suffer. Like, it's one of those 2 different situations. And I think most people that go into grad school at some stage suffer a little bit at the very least, but hopefully you're going to come out of it stronger than ever. So that's truth number 1. Truth number 2 is that really in terms of grad school, you end up experiencing a shifting focus from breadth to depth. As an undergrad, you're trying to learn the foundations of your field. I can tell you that I'm a psychologist, so when I think about psych, usually I'm thinking about kind of 18 standard credit hours of courses that I think undergrads should have to be able to really prepare themselves properly for grad school. So these are things like Introduction to Psychology, Abnormal Psychology, something along the lines of social psychology, history of psychology, personality psychology, developmental psychology, also known as lifespan psychology, and possibly in addition to those ones, any specialty seminars, or maybe you want to be a neuropsychologist, or it's like, okay, take a cognitive psych class or a neuropsychology class. God bless. There you go, right? That's your entire major pretty much for the most part at most schools. But the thing is that these things are really foundational. And as I say in other videos, when you do end up getting into graduate school, this is going to be something that's almost like a funnel, and your area of expertise and the area where you are just reading literally hundreds of articles is going to shift dramatically. And it's going to be something where oftentimes as an undergraduate, we're reading really seminal research, the marshmallow study, Stanford prison experiment, the Bobo doll experiment in psychology. And all of a sudden we're reading new 2023 publications where all the people who did all those experiments for the most part, unfortunately, have passed away. Some of them still with us, but a number of them have passed away. So it's just one of those situations where, again, this shift from breadth into depth. All right. Truth number 3 is more independent study. As I mentioned a moment ago, graduate students often work independently on research projects, presenting their findings and receiving feedback from professors and peers. I still remember the first time that I ever wrote up a manuscript for my grad school supervisor. And guys, I was so proud. I got this thing ready to go. I was ready to rock. I took it, I put it in his little cubby, his little pigeonhole, and I wrote to him and I was just like, hey, listen, it's in your pigeonhole. And he said, I'm leaving for 2 weeks for vacation during the summer. I'll be back. By the time I'm back, I'll have the feedback for you. And I was excited. I was waiting for 2 weeks and I'm like, okay, whenever this guy gets back, well, I'm gonna be ready to rock. And so I remember a couple weeks passed, then a couple days passed, and I sent an email saying, hey, listen, I was just wondering where the thing was, right? And then he finally writes to me and he's like, it's in, my cubby, my pigeonhole, so, come get it. I get it. And when someone has not kind of read something beyond the first page, you can kind of tell because there's no crease where the staple usually is. That was the situation. And I just remember the entire first page circled in red ink and just the word no. And that was it. That was all the feedback. And oh my gosh, like this was so shocking to me. When I was an undergraduate, I would get so much feedback. It'd be so in-depth on anything that I submitted in any class. This was completely different. So the nature of the feedback you receive is very different because they're really pushing you, and it can be a painful process to get stretched in this way, but it's very important to be able to understand that this is being done. God, it sucks to say it, kind of for your own good at the end of the day here, okay? So that's number 3. Number 4 is that obviously grad school, depending on the nature of the grad school you go to, can be a greater financial commitment. So let's say, for example, you want to go to one of these PsyD programs where the average student comes out with about $125,000 or more of debt, student loan debt. Now, for certain programs, obviously, you know, even those PsyD programs, you're going to come out with over $300,000 student loan debt. But if you do a clinical psychology PhD, then, you know, if there's a tuition waiver, if you want to take on student loan debts to be able to pay for lifestyle stuff, I get it, God bless, but it's going to be way less than having to pay full tuition at one of these schools. And also private schools versus public schools, usually private schools are more expensive. Not always, but, you know, this is the general, you know, painting with a broad brush. So grad school often requires a significant financial investment, and this is not just tuition and living expenses, but it's also things like books. Now, you may think as well as I do that, you know, you hear about academic books, you're like, how much can these things reasonably cost? Even the digital versions of a lot of these books, and in grad school, these books are much more advanced than undergraduate foundational textbooks. They can be multiple hundreds of dollars per book, with multiple books per class sometimes. It is absolutely wild, but that's what we're looking at here, okay? Now, difference number 5 is that in grad school, obviously new social and professional networks open up, and the individuals that you're going to meet, particularly the individuals in your cohort, as well as the faculty members in the department, are going to be individuals who very likely you're going to be kind of going through life with for at least the next 5 to 10 years. So it's important to be able to build these new relationships with classmates, professors, and also if there's any industry, you know, professionals or community contacts that your department works with, getting to know these people is really beneficial because there's that saying that your network is your net worth, and I couldn't agree with that more. Okay. Number 6 is career advancement. Grad school can lead to greater job opportunities, higher salaries, and career advancements really in many fields. Now that said, it depends on what you were doing before. For example, let's say that you were in industry before. A lot of industry positions pay significantly more than, let's say, academic positions. Not always, but oftentimes. So it's important to be able to take a look at the data out there. If you're in the United States, for example, you can take a look at either state level statistics or Bureau of Labor statistics to be able to find out a lot of this information. Big mistake people make, though, is that they oftentimes take a look at median income for different positions, kind of across the lifespan, as opposed to just in new graduates, how much are they making? Obviously, if you, let's say, are a psychologist and you're making the same amount right when you get out of grad school and at the end of your career, you're doing something wrong, right? Then it kind of makes sense. So obviously what we're dealing with here is the median of all those individuals at all of those different places in their career. And so because of that, it's very important to take that into consideration. Don't think just because you're getting out, oh my gosh, you're gonna be making all this money. You are the low man or woman on the totem pole. It is what it is, okay? And finally, number 7 is that grad school brings along with it numerous time management challenges. You know, it involves balancing coursework, a lot of research if it's in a research program, or, you know, practica, depending on the nature of your degree. Like, again, I'm a psychologist, so I talk about clinical rotations or clinical practica that you need to do during grad school for your clinical comps, right? But then you also have a personal life. I hope you have a personal life. My joke always, which is not really a joke, is that people talk about work-life balance, but in grad school, it's work-life balance. That's the balance somehow, right? Grad school can be quite demanding and require effective time management skills. Watch other videos on this channel where I go through different apps that I love, different softwares that I love to be able to get that done. So without further ado, I want you to be sure to check out publicationacademy.com, which is going to teach you everything you need to know about how to be able to get into the top graduate school programs in the country and how to be able to get them fully funded. In the meanwhile, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, please do like this video, follow us on social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.